It's beer o'clock on Real Ale Craft Beer. I've been wondering how to title this video because there's supermarkets out there that are doing 3 for £7 deals or £6.50 deals on beers. And I've managed to kind of find 3 really good lagers that are actually individually cheaper than these Tesco deals and these Sainsbury's deals and these Asda deals, Morrison's deals. But they're beers that you may not usually find. They are probably a little bit out of some people's comfort zones. They're not your Heinekens or your Kronenbourg 1664s or your Tiger beers, Warsteiners, Kronbachers, which we're all used to. They're slightly different. But they're cheap and they're really, really good. I would argue as good or a little bit better maybe than some of the other beers in these supermarkets. Let's take a look at them. So the first beer is from Germany. Well, let's do the calculations on this. This beer was £2.50 in my local Home Bargains. This was £1.69. So doing the maths, £3.50, £4.20. And this is Efes Draft, 5% ABV. Turkish beer. And this was also £1.60-ish. So that brings it in at something like £6.90. So it's under £7. It's cheaper than your 3 for 7s in your, or your 3 for £6. I think they're 3 for 7 in most supermarkets these days. They've just recently gone up. Tuborg Ficky, this one. This is also brewed in Turkey, 100% malt beers. This is what's kind of interesting about this. 5% ABV, 100% malt beer. Same as the Efes Draft, 5% ABV, 100% malt beer. But I want to start off with the DAB. Dortmund Export. There's the bottle cap. Maybe I just call the video a cheaper alternative to the... This is the thing, is finding it. I am struggling for a catchy title to this video. Been thinking all afternoon. Beer in the glass. A cheaper alternative to your 3 for 2s or your 3 for £7. Tough to find a... It's tough to find. I'll sort it out in my own time, but comment in the comments box with your own suggestions. We got a 2-finger white head on this beer. Good levels of carbonation. It's an amber coloured beer in the glass. It looks really lovely. Straw-ish amber colour. Good carbonation. Green glass bottle. Is there any skunk in there? It's not too bad. Maybe a small pinch of a skunkiness, but that's okay. But a lot of grain, a lot of malt. It smells fantastic, actually. Hoppy. Let's get in. Cheers, everybody. Beautiful beer. Beautiful beer. Malty, grainy, good mouthfeel, fantastic drinkability, very refreshing. hoppy, nice and bitter on the back end. This is a really good export. So export beer, I'll be very quick with this, it was the older style of German beer. It was the beer that the Germans exported around the world before Pilsner became very popular and very fashionable. It was a Dortmund beer, was export beer, and there were great big breweries that exported the beer, literally all over. They exported it all over the world, but in the beer style itself, it's slightly sweeter than Pilsner. It's slightly sweeter, a little bit more malty, not as hoppy as Pilsner. So you could probably argue a little bit like Helles lager. You get 660 millilitres of this. It might have been £2. I say £2. It might have been something like £2.39. Tipping on the floor. £2.39 for this. That makes it, I don't know, something like £6.70 for the three. I'm sure it was something like £6.50, £6.70 for the 3 beers, which is a great alternative, isn't it, to your kind of your Asda's, your Morrison's, your Tesco's. That is superb. Absolutely superb, clean, drinkable, decent German lager right there. Very good. Very, very good. So let's move on. What I love about these beers, these two here, is that they're all malt lagers, brewed in Turkey. I just love the individual look of the bottles. They both, well, that looks like a dimpled British pint glass, doesn't it? The Tuborg. And the Efes draft looks like some kind of dumpy barrel, doesn't it? Brilliant. Let's get the Ficky. Oh, I don't even need a bottle opener with this. Let's get the Ficky out then. There's 100% malt on the top. Proudly kind of saying that. It's good beer, this. .500 milliliter bottle, 5% ABV. So if you're relatively new to lager, if you're new to beer, what they mean by 100% malt is exactly that. There's no glucose, there's no rice, there's no corn, none of those cheaper ingredients that you might find in a Kronenbourg 1664. Or what did I have? I had a Tiger beer yesterday, Singapore beer, but brewed in, I think it was brewed in Italy. That had glucose syrup in it. This is a pure malt beer. 1 finger whitehead. Good levels of carbonation. Amber in the colour. Let's get the aroma. Yeah, just beautiful. Malt, grain. A little bit hoppy. And a stinging nettle hoppiness coming through. Let's dive in. Cheers, everybody. And just like the Dortmunder export, the DAB Dortmunder, it just has that elevated level of quality. Bearing in mind, this was £1.69. It's cheap as chips, isn't it? Cheap as chips for an all malt lager of this quality. Carbonation, A little bit higher on this one, pushing the beer on the inside of the mouth, releasing more of the flavour. Grain, malt, wafer biscuits, stinging nettle, slight kind of lemony hop flavour on the beer. But again, fantastic drinkability, really good mouthfeel. Packet of ready salted crisps, a big bag of ready salted crisps with this on a Mediterranean balcony. Absolutely perfect. Stunning beer. Here we go. Last but not least, Efes Draft. We will try and pick a winner with these three. We're going to try and pick a winner. 5% ABV. There's the bottle cap. So you've all heard of Efes. Efes is the Efes Pilsner, I think it is. It's in a, has a blue label, I believe, Efes. This is probably just brewed for the Turkish market. What I like about Home Bargains is they will go to great lengths to get good European lager on their shelves. So full credit to them there. I think the owner, I deal with a first of all, let's get we'll talk about Home Bargains in a minute. Let's have a look at this beer whilst it's freshly poured. 2-finger whitehead. Looks like it wants to dissipate though quite quickly. You can see the carbonation's quite large, the head's quite large there. Good carbonation. Again, amber, straw amber coloured beer in the glass. Good levels of carbonation. Yeah, clear aroma. Ooh. Had a sort of a kind of like a hint of lemon there in that first initial aroma of the beer. And then lots of grain, lots of wafer, lots of grain. Let's dive in. Cheers, everybody. Oh. Slightly different this, in that, slightly different to the Ficky, Tuborg Ficky. It's a little lighter on the palate. It's a little crisper. It's a little bit more hoppy in that it's slightly lemony, slightly citrusy. I'm not talking about New World hops here. I'm not talking about kind of like Centennial, Cascade, Chinook, Simcoe. I'm talking about traditional hops, traditional lager hops. Sort of kind of like a lemon and lime hoppy flavour coming through with a nice bitterness. A little bit of sweetness from that malt to begin with, a little bit of bitterness on the back end. A fabulous, again, a fabulous beer. And this brings me to, I worked with a brewery, did a couple of collaborations with them, who deal directly with Home Bargains. And I know, through dealing with this brewery, that the owner of Home Bargains is a massive fan of beer, to the point where he's bought, oh, grab this, He's bought Love Lane Brewery in Liverpool. TJ Morris, the company that owns Home Bargains, are based in Liverpool. They bought a Liverpool brewery, and they're now producing beers. This will be on the channel shortly. Blackbird Extra Stout, 6.7% ABV. But where they've nailed Home Bargains, if you're willing to experiment, like they've got Peroni Red, which I love Peroni Red. That's on the shelves in Home Bargains for something like £1.10, something like that. And if you go to Italy, Peroni Red is the only beer that the Italians drink. It's a really lovely all malt lager. They don't drink the Azzurro. They send the Azzurro, the Nastro Azzurro, whatever they call it. They send that over here for us. They kind of brew it for that kind of skunky, almost kind of overly carbonated British taste. But my point is here, if you're willing to try a different lager, they have African lagers in Home Bargains from time to time. Always on the lookout for new beers in Home Bargains. They're really quite good. They used to sell Franciscana when I first got into beer at £1 a bottle. Fantastic, really fantastic. Anyway, you should try these beers. You really should try these beers. They're really good lagers. But the journey of Home Bargains and beer hasn't stopped, because they initially got into craft beer. And they followed the same trend as Aldi, if you like. They tried to make a really cheap craft beer that was quite poor. It was quite kind of like, some of them were atrocious, their early craft beer offerings at Home Bargains. But since they purchased Love Lane, this gentleman, this guy who owns Home Bargains, he's a blooming clever guy. He really is. I mean, you look at this here. You've got the Liver Bird here, you know, for the Liverpool fans type of thing. The symbol of Liverpool on the front of the can with the moon, Blackbird Extra stuff. It's very, I mean, if this tastes good, I think I paid about £1.60 something for this beer. If that tastes good, as do some of the Love Lane Pale Ales and IPAs that are now in Home Bargains, they're onto a winner. They're trying to create this ecosystem, if you like, of right, I can go to Home Bargains, I can buy a couple of cheap lagers from around the world, and if I want to, I can buy a couple of the Love Lane craft beers. It's very difficult to break the mould of Tesco's and Morrison's and Asda's, that sort of thing. But I think if they carry on with this trajectory, if they carry on producing good craft beer with Love Lane, I think the message will eventually get out. You won't automatically wake up in the morning and go, oh, the sun's shining, I need to go and get my beers to put in the fridge so they're nice and cold for the afternoon's barbecue from Tesco. You might immediately go, and this is what they're looking for, I'll pop to Home Bargains, pick up a couple of cold lagers, couple of stouts to finish with, couple of craft beers. Wonderful, isn't it? Let's choose a winner between these three then. Let's go back to the not that, the Dortmunder DAB. Grainy, malty. This is going to be close. A tiny bit of skunkiness from that green glass bottle, but that's okay. That really is okay. Tuborg Ficky. Head's dissipated a little bit on this one. Good carbonation though. A little bit heavier. That all malt lager. The German one's all malt lager too, but this one seems more, it's not heading towards ale, but if I was an ale drinker, I'd probably offer them this out of the three. It has a little bit more body than the other two beers. It's minuscule things here because they're all good beers. Efes Draft. I really like that. I want to check the ingredients. I want to check. It's quite clinical in a way that, I mean, I say that. Water, malted barley, hops and yeast. It's all malt. It's an all malt lager. Wow. Mediterranean slow. This is plumbing good. This is really good. DAB 8. Pinch of skunkiness. Ficky from Tuborg 8. Little bit heavy on the malt. This is minuscule stuff, by the way. Efes Draft. Pinches it for me. It pinches it. It's not as heavy on the malt as the Ficky. It's an all malt lager. But it's not as heavy on the malt. And it's just a little bit hoppier. That touch of lemon, that touch of lime I was talking about earlier on, just elevates it just a little bit. 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10 from Real Ale Craft Beer. 3 excellent beers to choose from Home Bargains. I'm not associated with Home Bargains whatsoever. At all. I'm an independent person who just went down and bought them with my own money. Go and find them, go and try them. Please put your comments in the comments box. Subscribe to our daily beer and food reviews. Give us a big fat thumbs up. Boom. Cheers.